Hi, my name is Tom Bresson. I'm with the Urban Farmer Store. We've talked about how we connect our systems to our water source. Now we're going to look at how we lay out our lines and what we water with. First of all, our line coming from the valve is normally about a 1/2 inch poly. And it has fittings. It's polyethylene because it has good memory, meaning that if I push it over a fitting, or I put a fitting over it, or I punch a hole in it and connect something to it, it's going to stay there. It's not going to leak. So the trick to working with poly, and when it comes in a roll, it's usually a roll about this big, is always to unroll it. So you take it, hold it at the end, and keep unrolling it. If you end up pulling off coils like that, you'll get kinks. So if you unroll it, you don't get kinks. If you pull the coils off like this, you get kinks. So it's pretty easy to learn that and keep from doing it. Then whenever we come to a place where we need a fitting, either an elbow, a T, or an end cap, we cut it at that point. And I usually make a mark with my thumbnail about a 1/2 inch down. And let's say I'm going to elbow it because I'm going around an edge. I will just make that mark and walk that fitting on until it holds. Now this will hold. It's not going to come off due to the water pressure in our system. If it turns out that we need to, we can fight with it and get it off so we can reuse the fitting if we put it in the wrong spot. Memory is also important because that's how we attach things often. We might want to have an emitter as it runs by a plant. So I could run this by it, make a hole punch, and grab an emitter. And this red one is 1/2 gallon an hour, so it's for one of my lower water needs plants. I can use 1 and 2 gallon an hour for higher water. And now it's going to drip just there. Sometimes we'll use 1/4 inch tubing and extend it, especially when we go up into containers. We might have a bit of tubing coming out going to an emitter into a container. There's all sorts of fittings to help us hold things in place. There's different sized stakes to hold it down in the garden. And sometimes if we're running along a fence or underneath a deck, we can use nail clamps of different sizes to hold the fitting, hold the tubing to the structure. Now, there's 2 types of drip emitters. One is built in the tubing called emitter line. And that was developed for agriculture. And this has emitters every foot. It looked much like the poly we just looked at, but this actually has emitters in it. So if I roll it out and it's along a hedge, it will evenly water the whole length of the hedge. And I won't have to add emitters because they're built in. This is very durable and very inexpensive. It's less expensive than me buying all the emitters, all the tubing, and especially when I have to put them all in. This was developed for agriculture for row crops like tomatoes and other ones where they want a nice even watering over long distances. We wanted a smaller version which wouldn't be used in agriculture because 1/4 inch isn't a large enough flow path to carry tubing, carry water to the end of a very long tube. But if I'm doing a little loop around plants, let's say I have a rose bush and I want to do a loop around each rose bush, it'll give even water. This has 4 emitters. It'll allow me not to have to put 4 emitters to get that even watering. Sometimes I use it in row crops. Let's say this was going down a row of maybe 12 or 15 feet of vegetables. I could connect it at one end, put a cap on the other, and water the whole length evenly. So this is, when possible, these are nice products to use. But sometimes we have uneven spacing. So if I have a lot of mulched area and I have just occasional plants, that's when we would probably, and let me show you a different punch. This is another punch I use, and it's pretty simple. I can make a hole here, and let's say make a hole on this. Now I push in my emitters. And now when the system comes on, this plant gets watered. If I said, oh, I wanted to put the same emitter in and I put the wrong one in, I can pull it out and often get the emitter I meant to put in its place. But if it's not working, I can push in what's called a goof plug. But this will seal up holes. It's also used sometimes if I'm running a little loop around a plant. This is a connector. It has a hole in the middle and will allow water to come from a larger tube into it. This is a plug, it's at the end. And the goof plugs come in racks of 10. So sometimes we have container systems where this container, we don't want the emitter on our delivery line, we want to hide that. We want to come up into it. And let's say it's a white stucco house. I could have a 1/4-inch emitter line, I mean 1/4-inch tubing connected to this and push that in. Now come up into the container where I'd have my emitter, or 2 emitters, or maybe a little loop of emitter line. There are a lot of things that drip systems allow us to do. It's very easy to install just one drip emitter for one plant, see how you like it, and then grow your system. Or if you find one plant that needs more water, to add an emitter. And if your garden grows, to add more emitters, because you saw from our earlier calculation, you might have enough water to supply 800 emitters, and you might only be using 60 of them.